All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about this Springfield Range Officer Operator with these nice VZ grips. Let's get into it. Range Officer? That can't be a range officer. Range officers are competition guns. That's got a rail. No, come on. All right, so we're talking about the range officer and in particular, the operator model. Now, for those of you that aren't incredibly familiar, the standard range officer has target sights typically, whereas these have more Novak style sights with a fiber optic front. The range officer typically does not have a Picatinny rail. This model does. Other than that, the firearms are pretty similar. You have on this gun the claim to fame. If you want to talk about what the range officer is all about, kind of think of like a sleeper, kind of an old school hot rod that's just in primer on the exterior, but inside there are a lot of performance components. You really have a no frills gun unless you count a frill, and then, you know, because for the 1911 purists out there, I'm sure a lot of you will say, well, 1911s don't need a rail, etc. But obviously there's a market for that, for those that desire to put a light or whatever on their weapon. And for some of us, it looks cool too, sporting these VZ grips. They're the aliens, and I think that's the hyena color. I can't ever say that right, but they look fantastic on the gun. And this gun has performed amazingly well. I love shooting this 1911. It makes moderate shooters look pretty good. You know what I'm saying? It's fun to take the guys that just kind of that are just learning the shooting sports, people that I'm introducing to handgun shooting. They've shot the 22s a little bit, and they're looking to, you know, they've shot the 9mm, and they're showing they're not super recoil sensitive or whatever, and because it's heavy enough and it's got that kind of longer sight radius and everything, it's fun to take them and put this in their hand, because so many shooters, new shooters, have just proven to naturally point of aim, do really well with it. So anyway, it's a great gun. I really have had a lot of fun with it. You know, it's gotten a lot of use, and I haven't abused it, but I've definitely used it, and you can see that parkerization is holding up, you know, really well. Forged carbon steel gun with a parkerized finish, and it's got a GI recoil system in it, and really it's very straightforward. Most of the internals of this gun are similar to the internals of the loaded, so you've got some upgraded internals. There are some actually some nicer internals than the loaded when you look at you know, the match grade barrel that's in it, and the fact that they hand fitted. There are some things that are really a step above with this gun. Again, we're not comparing it to these almost custom guns, guns that are trying to be custom guns, but they're still production level. And we're certainly not comparing it to the Wilsons and Nighthawks and those kind of things. But per the actual competition and the actual real world price point that this gun is competing with, I mean, I just think it blows most of the competition out of the water. I mean, there's some other good guns out there, and I'm but I think that this is definitely worthy of your look. Now, what don't I like about it? Well, the price savings. I get to cut costs. They didn't put any kind of finish on the front. I get it. It's pretty normal, and that can be rectified as cheaply as some skateboard tape up here, or as expensively as taking it in to have it whatever DPI that you choose from your local gunsmith applied. And that's probably the direction that I would go. I guess the positive is you can determine how aggressive or not aggressive you want that to be. I would probably put the trigger function is great, and it's a nice trigger. I've been really happy with the brake and all that. But I would probably, as far as form factor, probably have chosen a different, maybe a solid trigger. But that's just personal preference stuff. Really, I don't have a whole lot to complain about. Obviously, when you're looking at these kind of 1911s, it's heavy, so it depends on what you're looking to use it for, what your purpose is. If you're talking about, what this primarily is for me is a range gun, weight's not a big deal. If you're looking at it from a competition perspective, depending on what kind of competition you're talking about, it's probably a pretty valid option. At it from a home defense standpoint, I think you could make a case for that, depending on what you're used to, what your training has been, what you're most comfortable with, etc. But all in all, just a really well-made, good option. What it comes with, you've seen tons of these. It comes with a nice box from Springfield. It comes with an okay paddle holster, 2 magazines. Of course, these are the grips that come on it, and they're nice rosewood grips. It comes with a 2 magazine injection molded plastic magazine holder. I mean, really, somebody could go and shoot an IDPA match with the gun right out of the box, I think. I mean, I certainly have had no problem with it from a reliability standpoint, and so I wouldn't hesitate to do that. Now, I have seen where some folks, especially with the 9mm version, have had some hiccups early on. I think that's to be expected with 9mm 1911s at this price point. You're going to have some of those things. That's not to say that a manufacturer gets a pass for that. I mean, I think you pull a gun out of the box, it should work. But spending, let's put it this way, you can have that same thing happen with a far more expensive 9mm 1911. You've got tolerances that you're dealing with and stuff there. That being said, the fact that they came out with this gun in 9mm is really, really interesting to me. I'm having a really hard time not picking one of those guys up. And it's kind of cool too that they've done it in the champion size range as well. So this whole line, I imagine, is extremely popular for Springfield. I don't know. I haven't looked at their sales numbers or anything like that, or called or tried to figure that out. But I would imagine, just from talking to folks around the range, talking to people in the local gun shop, and marketing and all this, I would imagine that this line has been very successful for Springfield. And I would say that that's not a hype thing in this case. That's because if you're looking for a 1911 that's in the budget category, and you don't want something that's so budget oriented that it is it's not really what you wanted, so you'll end up buying 2 or 3 of them because you really wanted something more expensive, but you didn't want to bite the bullet and do that. But you also don't want to spend $2,000, $1,500 on a 1911, and you're looking for something in that medium to low price range for the 1911 market. I think that this is kind of one of your first 2 or 3 starter spots to start looking at, okay, where do I actually keep getting something as I move up this chain and keep getting something that's noticeable for the average shooter. Now, you get something for the more expensive, but the more expensive you go up the line, but what you get is not, it's noticeable, but it's not, it doesn't change the range reality for most of us when you start going farther and farther and farther up that line. So anyway, law of diminishing returns is a whole different conversation. You could have a totally different opinion about it. All I'm saying is, rambling aside, I think this is a buy for sure, and I think it's definitely a contender and the best 1911 buy on the market today. Again, it depends a lot on what you're looking for, but a case could be made for saying that this gun is the best buy, the best value in the 1911 market in the United States today. Y'all have a great one. Bye. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about the Springfield Range Officer